Welcome to Curious Nightmares, the channel where your darkest fears and deepest curiosities collide. Prepare for spine-tingling tales and eerie explorations into the supernatural. Subscribe and stay tuned for hair-raising stories. It was Halloween night, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows across the town. I decided to venture out, my heart pounding with anticipation. The air was filled with the scent of fallen leaves and damp earth, the perfect atmosphere for a night of fright. As I walked down the dimly lit street, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The wind whispered through the trees, and the leaves rustled, creating a symphony of unsettling sounds. I heard distant laughter and the faint echo of a children's rhyme. My path led me to an old, abandoned house, its windows shattered and its paint peeling. The legend spoke of a malevolent presence that haunted this place, and I couldn't resist the temptation to explore it on Halloween night. With trembling hands, I pushed open the creaking door, and the darkness within swallowed me whole. My flashlight revealed decrepit furniture covered in dusty sheets. I moved cautiously, my footsteps echoing through the desolate house. Suddenly, a chilling draft sent shivers down my spine. The walls seemed to close in, and the very air grew heavy with malevolence. In the dim light, I saw a spectral figure standing in the corner, its eyes empty voids and its bony fingers beckoning me closer. My bones seemed to crack with fear as I inched towards the apparition. It raised a skeletal hand, and before I could react, I was lifted from the ground. My body tossed around like a rag doll. The room echoed with my screams. My flashlight flickered, casting long, disfigured shadows on the wall, revealing the grotesque truth. The room was filled with the tortured souls of those who had dared to enter. Their bony hands reached out for me, craving release from their eternal torment. I tried to escape, but the room's malevolent force was relentless, throwing me from wall to wall, my bones snapping and cracking with each impact. I could feel the life draining from me, and I knew I was becoming one of them. As my vision faded, I joined the spectral chorus, my agonized cries adding to the chilling symphony of Halloween night. The house was claiming another victim, and I was about to become part of its gruesome legend. But then, with a final surge of willpower, I managed to break free from the creature's grasp. My bones ached, and my body throbbed with pain, but I stumbled to my feet, my flashlight flickering. The room's malevolent presence fought to keep me within its grasp, but I staggered towards the shattered window. The tortured souls reached out, their bony fingers grazing my skin, their despairing wails echoing in my ears. I forced my way through the shattered glass, feeling the shards cut into my flesh. Outside, the Halloween night seemed to hold its breath, waiting for my escape. I ran, bloodied and battered, through the overgrown garden and down the desolate street. I could still hear the creature's anguished screech behind me, the sound haunting my every step. I didn't look back for fear of what I might see. I never returned to that forsaken house, and I never spoke of the horrors I'd witnessed. But the memories of that Halloween night, the agonized souls and the grotesque creature, would forever chill my bones. I survived, but I couldn't escape the feeling that something malevolent had latched onto my soul that night, and its presence would always linger, just beyond the edge of reality. As I stumbled through the overgrown garden and down the desolate street, the creature's anguished screech still echoing in my ears, I felt a deep sense of dread and exhaustion. I could barely see through the darkness and the blood trickling from the wounds on my body. My steps became increasingly unsteady. Suddenly, the world seemed to spin, and the ground rushed up to meet me. The next thing I knew, I woke up in a hospital bed, disoriented and covered in bandages. A nurse stood nearby, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "Thank goodness you're awake," she said with a warm smile. "Someone found you on the street, unconscious, and called an ambulance. You're lucky to be alive. Can you tell me what happened?" I opened my mouth to speak, but the memories of that horrifying night flooded back and I couldn't find the words. The chilling presence of the malevolent creature, the tortured souls, the grotesque figure. It was too much to put into words. I shuddered at the thought. The nurse continued to inquire, but I never spoke of the horrors I had witnessed that Halloween night. The experience had left me scarred, and I couldn't find the courage to relive it or to explain it to anyone. I simply shook my head, my eyes haunted by the darkness that still clung to me. In silence, I carried the chilling tale with me, a secret buried deep within, never to be uttered again. The eerie silver moonlight filtered through the dense canopy of trees, casting long, menacing shadows over the deserted campsite. It was Halloween night, and I had ventured deep into the heart of the forest, seeking the thrill of the unknown. Little did I know that this night would become a chilling descent into darkness. As I wandered through the campsite, the whispers of the wind and rustling leaves added to the foreboding atmosphere. The once familiar surroundings now seemed alien and hostile. Tattered remnants of forgotten tents flapped in the breeze, bearing silent witness to the campers who had vanished without a trace. A campfire smoldered at the center of the site, its dying embers casting an eerie, dancing glow on the gnarled trees. I couldn't resist the temptation to warm myself by its fading heat, but as I drew closer, a haunting melody drifted through the night air. It was a spectral tune, played on a phantom flute, and it seemed to beckon me deeper into the woods. With a mix of curiosity and fear, I followed the ethereal music, the chill of the forest seeping into my bones. The path led me to a decaying cabin, its windows shattered and its door ajar. Inside, a flickering candle revealed a tattered diary filled with tales of horror and madness. The journal told of a group of campers who had set up their tents in this very spot, only to fall victim to an ancient curse that plagued the forest. The curse was linked to an unholy presence known as the Harvesting Fiend. According to the diary, the fiend was said to awaken on Halloween night, seeking to harvest the souls of those who dared enter its domain. As I continued to read, the ominous sound of footsteps echoed from outside the cabin, growing louder and closer. My heart raced as I realized I was not alone. Desperation set in, and I extinguished the candle, plunging the room into darkness. I hid behind the cabin's rotten walls, listening to the whispers of the night and the approaching footsteps. The footsteps grew closer, each one a haunting, deliberate stride, and the spectral melody of the flute drew nearer. A bone-chilling realization struck me. The harvesting fiend was real, and it was stalking me through the forest. I strained my eyes to see, but the darkness was impenetrable. Suddenly, a spectral figure emerged from the shadows, its eyes hollow and filled with malevolence. It played the haunting tune on the flute, its eerie notes slicing through the night. My breath caught in my throat as I watched the fiend pass by, mere feet from my hiding place. Its presence exuded a cold, otherworldly dread. Once it was gone, I knew I had to escape the campsite, to flee the clutches of the harvesting fiend. I darted into the forest, my footsteps a frantic rhythm against the fallen leaves, the fiend's chilling music fading into the distance. But the horrors were far from over. The woods themselves seemed to come alive, as if the trees had eyes, and the shadows had claws. Branches reached out to grab at me, and the earth beneath my feet felt like quicksand, threatening to swallow me whole. As I raced deeper into the darkness, the spectral flute's music returned, louder and more sinister. It seemed to be coming from all directions, disorienting me, and I realized that the harvesting fiend was not a single entity, but a legion of malevolent spirits, all pursuing me with relentless intent. Desperation and fear gnawed at my sanity. I couldn't escape the relentless pursuit. Just when I thought I could go no further, I stumbled upon an ancient, crumbling altar, adorned with grotesque symbols and bloodstains. I knew that this was the source of the curse, and the key to my survival. Summoning every ounce of courage, I whispered an incantation, beseeching the spirits to release me from their grip. In the distance, the spectral music faltered, then wailed in agony. The trees and shadows recoiled, and the harvesting fiend's grip on the forest was broken. I fled the cursed campsite, my heart pounding, my mind forever scarred by the horrors I had witnessed. Halloween night had unmasked terrors beyond imagination, proving that even the most seemingly innocent places can hide the darkest of secrets. So, if you ever find yourself in a remote campsite on Halloween, beware the harvesting fiend and the chilling terrors that lurk within the night, for some nightmares are all too real. The air was crisp on that fateful Halloween night as I approached the old mansion, its crumbling facade looming in the moonlight. The ancient structure was said to be cursed, and I couldn't resist the temptation to explore its haunting mysteries. With each step, the gravel path seemed to echo the heartbeat of the night. A chill ran down my spine as the massive wrought iron gate creaked open before me, seemingly of its own accord. I entered the mansion's overgrown garden, and a sense of foreboding hung in the air. The grand entrance doors swung wide, revealing the mansion's dark interior. The only light came from the pale glow of the full moon, casting long, eerie shadows. I cautiously ventured deeper, my footsteps echoing through the silent hallways. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, making me jump. The sound seemed to come from the top floor, and I couldn't resist the urge to investigate. Ascending the grand staircase, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. As I reached the upper level, a chilling breeze brushed against my face, extinguishing the candle I carried. In the pitch-black darkness, I strained to hear any movement. That's when I sensed it, a presence just inches away. My heart raced as I fumbled for my lighter, the flame revealing a ghostly figure inches from my face. Its hollow eyes stared into my soul, and it let out a spine-tingling wail. I stumbled backward, narrowly avoiding the apparition's grasp. Determined to escape the nightmare, I raced down the stairs, my heart pounding like a drum. The once quiet mansion had come alive with spectral figures, all pursuing me with malevolent intent. Desperation clawed at my throat, and I couldn't find the exit. Finally, I reached the front door, and with a burst of adrenaline, I flung it open. The moonlight bathed the mansion in an eerie glow, and I realized I had escaped the haunted house's clutches. But as I turned to leave, I noticed a small, ornate box on the ground. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked it up. Inside was a faded photograph of a happy family, the very same family that was said to have once lived in the mansion. Suddenly, a whisper in the wind seemed to carry a message. "Help us." I knew then that the family's tormented spirits were trapped in that accursed mansion. The revelation sent a shiver down my spine, for the mansion wasn't haunted by malevolence, but by souls longing for release. The true horror of that Halloween night wasn't the mansion itself. It was the tragic fate of the family that had once called it home. The ghostly figures that pursued me were the family members, their eyes filled with sorrow. They had been victims of a dark curse, and their cries for help were a heartbreaking plea for freedom. As I walked away from the mansion, the realization that some hauntings are born from sorrow rather than malevolence haunted me more than any ghost ever could. The echoes of their cries followed me, leaving me with a chilling reminder of the heart-wrenching horrors I had witnessed on that dreadful Halloween night.